biggest thing that I love is that I finally work in the federal government. In general, I went to school for 11 years and relocated to DC to make this happen for myself. I submitted 421 applications. 420 of them I was told no. And so to finally be in a position where I'm having the opportunity to do what I love is great. What I do as a human capital strategist, most people think, well, it's HR, it's human resources, but it's not. As a human capital strategist, I try to help leaders and organizations understand that your number one and your most critical asset would be the people. Without the people running your organization, you cannot fulfill your strategic goals. And so my job is to not only help leaders recognize that, but then also help employees feel engaged and not only feel appreciated, but I want for them to love coming to work every day. And so I develop strategies to help them stay engaged in support of our mission. What's rewarding is that I get to touch a lot of employees. I get to make a very healthy culture within the organization, and I think most importantly, I do a lot of work with diversity and inclusion, and so that's one of my passion projects, to make everyone feel included, not just based on minority status or gender, but persons with disabilities, veterans. I get to touch a lot of people and a lot of interest groups and help them feel connected to the organization, so that's rewarding for me.
Okay. Again, I want to be more like them when I grew up. Because I think all of you touched on one of my passions, and I guess why I've been in one organization for 30 years. You talked about advocacy, you talked about opportunities, but you also talked about outreach, and at least having a give back in the people. And that's one of the things that I think that from a leadership perspective is most important for people to have as an underlying principle. Because when you start looking at people, you cannot be a leader or be in a leadership position if you don't have anything or anyone to follow. So I think that hearing and having you all work towards supporting people, advocacy for the people, and making sure that their environment is rewarding and fulfilling to them is an excellent leadership characteristic. And then I'm going to ask some of the young ladies, did you okay, so I'm going to ask you to stand up. I'm going to ask your name. Wait. I'm going to ask your name and your class, because you want to get recognition for this. Okay.
What are your colors? What are your class colors? Okay.
Class colors. Black and white. Okay. Hold on one second.
I can do it loud.
That's what I'm talking about.
Do you do any internships?
Yes, we do take college internships. And we've had a couple high school students come observe just to kind of see some of the projects we work on and get an idea of what we do.
Can you do it loud?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question for Amanda Hartman. In your bio, they said that you went on a mission trip to Kenya. Could you tell me about how that was and like how old you were when you went?
Sure. I was a junior in college when we started Engineers Without Borders at Valpo. Valpo is what we call Valparaiso University. And we started the organization and raised money. We identified a family that was a missionary family in Kenya. And they were working with a tribe basically in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And they were helping the community, they were doing a lot of vocational outreach, with missionary purposes. And we linked up with them, and what they needed was a water supply. And their water, the river through Kenya, they would get floods a couple times a year, and then it would become a drought. And the animals and the people would dig holes, and the animal and the people would drink water and get their water supply out of the same location. And so that was causing a lot of health problems and a number of other problems. And so we linked up with them and raised money and went on the trip our senior year right after the session ended, and went for 2 weeks and helped them we physically dug the well and put in an irrigation system to help them learn how, we had to teach them how to grow corn and everything, and just help them learn how to, I guess, live and self-sustain themselves with a new water supply and crops so that they could live through the droughts. So it was really neat. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any more questions from the audience? Well, if not, I'm going to ask the next question to the panelists, and I'll let you all decide how you want to handle it, if you want to answer it. So one of the things that I think is valuable is networking. And in order to network, you have to understand the people skill, but you have to be able to speak. And in being a leader, sometimes it requires you to not always lead, but to kind of follow so that you can be an effective leader. Tell me your experience with networking and how it applies to your leadership style.
Well, I'm still coming into my own with that. I'm an outgoing person, but I'm actually an introvert at heart. So even being up here right now is me stepping outside of my comfort zone majorly. I'm super nervous, but I need this opportunity, and I view this as a networking opportunity. Just getting to know this panel in itself. In federal government, particularly in the role that I'm in right now, I've just recently been promoted to program manager, and it's requiring me to network with other federal agencies to create a collaborative environment for ideation. With that, I've joined a federal community of practice, and that's been critical to help lead an effort. Maybe not necessarily a staff, but to lead a campaign for the organization. A young lady that I'm friends with is in the audience. Her name is Tanika, and she former chief of staff at Department of Commerce. And she's the one that really showed me the value of networking. She does a lot of professional networking events after work, and understands what's critical with the business card. And so for me as a young professional, I think I'm still learning the value of it, even in this moment.
It's interesting you said you're an introvert, because I'm also very much an introvert. Most people don't believe that. But I don't really like spending a lot of my evenings networking. I just don't enjoy doing it. And so I have to figure out what's the important areas that I need to network around. So I do join boards, as you heard from my bio, and at least that way I get to network with a lot of business people in Richmond, and I get to know people on a smaller scale versus a room full of people that I don't know at all, that I would really not be comfortable in and not enjoy. Many times people think that introverts are shy, so I just want to clarify, introverts are not shy. It's not that we're shy, it's that we need our alone time to re-energize. And it's important to know who you are and what works for you. So don't do it because it works for somebody else. Figure out what works for you, and that's how you can make your contacts and network.
Well, I think that's really interesting, because what I just heard was that the three women here are introverts, and I always considered myself an introvert, so it's interesting to see that women in leadership roles can be introverts and still be successful. You mentioned something, Tony, about being able to have your alone time. So I think the next question that's really good to know is, how do you balance kind of the work life with your professional life, and what do you do to rejuvenate yourself, knowing that you have to be extroverted in a leadership role and still need your introverted time?
That's a great question. I think the first thing is working for an organization whose mission and values align with my mission and values. So going to work, I don't have to separate who I am at work versus who I am at home. That's extremely important. I wish I would have known that at 21, but I didn't. So you want to work somewhere where you can bring your whole self to work. Second of all, what I've learned is no organization is going to say to you, take care of yourself. Don't work 50 hours, 60 hours a week. I mean, no one's going to say that to you. So you have to make that decision for yourself. And actually, you're much more productive if you do that, if you keep a good balance. The other thing that most kids your age probably won't want to hear is do not multitask. Multitasking is actually bad for your brain, and you're never totally engaged at work, and then you'll miss half of what went on in the meeting, and that's why you'll need to spend more time at work. Pay attention, be fully present wherever you are, and your concentration will be better, and your time away from work will be better as well. But only you, an executive coach told me this years ago, only you can control your calendar. You can say yes and you can say no. Be comfortable saying no sometimes.
And just to tag on that a little bit, I think it takes a while to really get to know yourself and be comfortable with what you need for yourself to, you know, to re-energize or whatever. And to be able to say no, you really have to be comfortable with sometimes giving up opportunities and sometimes, you know, saying yes to things that push you out of your comfort zone. So, you know, you have to be open to both and just, you know, always do what you can to keep yourself centered, if you will. Her advice is great. It's very difficult to balance sometimes, but if you can and find that outlet, you'll be much happier.
For me, I'm very fortunate. USPTO prides itself on work life. So I work from home 2 days a week and I'm off every other Friday.
Great schedule.
So I'm currently in an environment where my employer encourages the balance. But as far as being an introvert and alone time, I will be honest, when I come home from work, sometimes I feel completely exhausted and depleted. And in this year, I've embraced 2 things that are helping me personally. I've never really been into fitness. I'm trying it out. So far it's working okay. And I've really tried to take my relationship with God to another level. I'm reading daily devotionals now, and I find that helps me have center a little bit more, those 2 activities. That works for me.
This year, I did add 20 minutes a day of centering prayer and meditation. Anything that you can do to keep your spiritual life active and well, I think is extremely important as well.
I guess I'll share a little bit about work balance. I guess Lexi had a hard time reading that bio because the bio is older than she is, in a sense. I've only had her 15 years, but the first 15 years of my career, I did not have that balance. So I can actually thank Lexi for giving me balance, where I was able to recognize the importance of family, fitness, and faith, and I call it my FQ. And that's one of the things that I think that it's something that's instilled in young ladies from the beginning. It's easy to always aspire for the golden ring. As a geologist, I always have jokes about rocks and things like that, but don't let the golden ring become pyrite. That's the fool's gold. So you have to always remember that you have to have something that's going to ground you, have a foundation that allows you to be yourself, but also give you the skills that allow you to say no when you need to say no. If you are unplugged because you need to plug in somewhere else to get rejuvenated, that's a good thing, but you have to know that. So I appreciate hearing your spiritual balance, your fitness balance. So my FQ came through Lexi, and I think that that's something that people just don't understand, that you can say no. And as women in leadership roles, it's hard to do that sometimes. Ladies, remember that. Just, so I'm going to ask